1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Schlemiel.
Schmazel.
Haas and Pfeffer Incorporated.
Incorporated.
We're gonna do it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. I'm Joe.
I'm Jacques.
And we're Carnival Personnel. Good night.
Thank you. We are Carnival Personnel. Joe and I are longtime semi-comedy collaborators. We write comedy for each other and pretty much nobody else.
Yeah.
That's because we're the only one. We're too smart for everybody else.
Nobody gets us, man.
Nobody. And it's not that we're not funny. It's that you don't get it. You being everybody else but us.
Yeah, just get hip to us, world. And, we'll all be on the same page, and then we'll all have a good time. So
Carnival Personnel,
yeah, what are
we are a couple married guys with kids looking for an excuse not to be with our significant others or children for a couple hours a week, prepping the show and actually recording it. We are video game nerds.
I'm a video game nerd. Jacques is a Resident Evil and Injustice. Anything Marvel.
And Batman.
Right, and anything comic book related.
Some of the Lego movies. Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much.
Whatever your little kids are into, Jacques is into.
That sounds so wrong.
Yes.
So right. We will be talking sports, and by sports we mean the greatest team in the history of football, the New England Patriots.
Yes.
And USFL. This week in USFL history.
Right.
Big segment for us.
Yeah. What would that be? Useful?
Yes, exactly. And there's nobody to call us out on it. So,
right.
But we will talk a little bit sports, but mostly the Patriots. Joe and I are both political junkies to a certain extent. Joe leans left, and I lean really, really left.
Yep. And he see me in the shower, so he can, That's true. Hey-o.
But I'm a tree-hugging vegetarian, absolutely socialist. I like people. Unlike the senator who came out the other day, or the congressman saying, he wouldn't publicly say if everybody deserves to eat.
I missed that one.
And you can't. But that's it. This is an unfocused catch-all. We're new at this. We hopefully will get better at this. This is kind of, like I said, an excuse for us to get together. A little bit about Joe. Joe and I, in the mid-'90s, started to do sketch comedy together. Joe's done stand-up in Boston and Los Angeles. He's written a great deal of sketch comedy, sitcom-ish comedy.
And I do some, freelance writing now here and there. You wouldn't know it because you're not cool enough, but I do.
He does a lot of comedy collaborations and writing for other comics. I myself, same, has written some feature length stuff, a lot of sitcom stuff, done a lot of stand up stuff. I live for sketches. For some reason, I think, when I was like 7 is when Saturday Night Live came out. So
wow,
yeah,
I was born, I think, 2 years after Saturday Night Live.
So that's always been my thing. It's like, Kids in the Hall got me through college. And so, we are trying to, do this for a lot of different reasons. One of them is to hang out. One of them is because we're so much smarter than most people we know. And
you said it was for the money.
It's all about the money. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Well, I don't need the money, and Joe doesn't need the money, but Chico needed the money.
Because back in my day, people did things for the money. You see, when you wanted to get something at the store, we called them stores back then, we would need money. Money would be something that you would exchange for goods and services.
So speaking of money, this week's advertisers are Blue Apron.
God, I love Blue Apron. Do we need to talk about both sponsors? Because I really just want to block out the whole hour talking about
Blue Apron.
You first.
What a lifesaver. the best thing about it is you don't have to know anything about cooking. They give you everything pre-measured out. It's right there. They don't repeat a recipe for a year. Vegetarian like me, a carnivore like Joe, they will make sure that you have everything you need for a really, really great meal. They come in about $10 per, which you can't pretty much, you can't eat out for that, that's for sure. And it's hard to shop and get all the right things you need. So, and the great thing is, again, you can go 365 days without having the same thing twice.
Right. And it's so wonderful. And they give you the step-by-step instructions to cook it, and they give you just what you need in order to make that particular recipe. And the recipes change every week. And it's so easy. If you just go to blueapron.com/not a real promo code, you will get 100% off of your order for the first 52 weeks, just the first 52 weeks. And then after that, then you'll have to start paying up. But then after that, I think they make up for it because they charge you like $100 a day.
And our other sponsor,
and they break thumbs.
and our other sponsor is Shudini, and we're going to bring in Gilbert Gottfried to read this ad.
Hi, where's the mic? Hi, first of all, where's my money? Second of all, where's that guy that does the impersonation of Gilbert Gottfried? Oh, wait, it's me. Shudini. You ever try to put on a shoe by yourself? It doesn't work. You need something to help you slip on your foot easily into the shoe that doesn't require a lot of bending and hurting of your fingers and the you need Shudini. Shudini does not cost a lot of money. And Shudini, unfortunately, does not have a website. So you can't even order Shudini. I'm not even sure if Shudini is still a legitimate business.
Did Danny Thomas use Shudini?
He did. If when the woman was on the glass coffee table and it wasn't coming out right away, Shudini would help ease. It would help ease everything up. Yes, yeah. Oh God.
And this is where we get back to in our first test when we came up with the show's catchphrase, leaving a dump.
Leaving a dump.
When we're done with the bit, you'll know we're done with the bit by us signing off, leaving a dump.
Yeah. Why? And the reason is we don't take dumps here. We leave them.
We leave them.
Thank you.
And trust me, we leave them all over the place.
Right.
All right, so moving on. The first thing we're going to talk about is gaming. To give a little background, we are coming to you live from Nutmeg. No, sorry, we're not at Nutmeg Studio.
Right.
We're in Joe's man cave, literally a cave.
Right.
It is an old Boston basement apartment that is brick and rock, and I'd say littered, but that's not the right word. It's very well organized. Joe has truly half a dozen. I'm looking around, half a dozen TV screens of varying sizes and ages.
But in this household, in today's world, which household does not have half a dozen screens of varying stages and sizes?
You know, I mean, we're going back to huge tube ones that weigh about 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, I have a Toshiba 32-inch CRT from like about early 2000s. It's a beast, and it's beautiful. It plays everything that you ever wanted to, except anything with an HDMI input.
And Joe literally has, and he can correct me, and you know, we will be creating a website and a Facebook page and cataloging some of the stuff, but I believe he has every home video game system ever created and almost every game that goes with it. There are walls of video games, which is one of our ongoing segments for the first two test runs. This is our first real broadcastable, hopefully. This will be our first broadcastable or postable, not broadcast, postable podcast, and the two we podcastable, thank you. I just blindly grab a game off his shelf. He has to guess which game it is based on the space he can see from where he's sitting, and then does a review of it. But first, we will talk about the new game that we got this week, which is Injustice 2. Big fan of Injustice 1. Fantastic storyline. For those who don't know, DC, I don't know if they officially partnered with the people who make Mortal Kombat.
Right.
But it's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I think I'm not actually sure who the developer. Actually, Injustice is right there on the shelf. It won't be the one game that we'll pull off the shelf, but yeah, it's a wonderful game. And I played the first one a little bit. I didn't really get into it as much as maybe you did, but I actually have 2 copies. I have the regular version and then the Ultimate Edition that has a couple of additional characters. But yeah, it's great, and it's awesome because it's not like a game where it's not like Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild that came out for the Switch, where you're literally you expect to spend about 60 hours playing a game. I have a 9-year-old who's a big gamer and a 7-year-old who's a big gamer, and the 9-year-old could probably get through it in a weekend. Maybe putting in a good 6 hours, 7 hours. There's not a lot of problem solving and puzzle solving. One of the fun things is, with the first Injustice, it's a great story. I mean, it's if you just watch like the cutscenes through, I really like the storyline. But what's fun in this is, watching him play it yesterday, there's going to be a fight between, 2 Justice Leaguers go from point A to point B. They're met up with villain A, and you can choose which one of the 2 heroes fights said villain. And then, no matter the outcome of it, once you pass that level, the cutscene picks up to whoever won, moving on. So you have a lot more interaction. I don't think you could do that in the last one. But this story is good. This story is good. Of course, it just came out, and we got the Ultimate Edition, which means in a few weeks, some more characters will come out. Yeah, to be determined.
A few weeks after that, a couple more.
So you got the season pass?
Got the season pass, which it's one of those things that's a scam. It's like, okay, here's this game for $60, and you justify it in your head. It's like, well, if I take the boys to a movie, I'm going to spend $60. If I buy this game for $60, that's X amount of time. But then you buy the season pass for another $50, and it's like,
yeah. And maybe I'd rather the season pass though than microtransactions, because those can get way out of hand. I mean, if you have a game like Call of Duty, like Black Ops or something, where you can use real money to buy in-game money to buy a chance at getting a rare weapon. You know what I mean? Like that's insane.
Yeah. Well, that's the battle. Our 7-year-old just turned 7, but I've been having with him for a while. Understanding that it's like, I am not spending real money to buy this digital money. So in this game, you can buy, like a pixel gun or some
right.
Lower animation, game for him. And they're fun, cute little games, but they can be complete money sucks if you let them.
Yeah. But at least with the season pass, you know what you're getting, and it's going to be quality stuff, and it's going to add it's going to add substantially to the enjoyment of the game and to the playability of the game. And it could, because games like that, they can get stale after. I mean, especially when you binge a game like that, like right up front. It just gets stale, and then it sits on the shelf, and that happens with a lot of games.
No, so I mean, we got Resident Evil 7 a few months ago, got all the downloadable content, all that stuff, spent weeks and weeks and weeks playing it, which is great. So if you end up, over a period of time, it comes down to 50 cents per hour of entertainment, so it's not that bad,
right?
When you parcel out, and
really, the more you play, the more you save. Something like that, right? I don't know. Whatever.
But it's good. Highly recommend it. Not just because I'm a big DC guy and a big capes and tights guy.
Who's your go-to character? How is it structured? Where in the storyline, do you start off with specific characters that they assign, or is there is there a storyline?
There's a story, and again, it's a lot like the first one. It's Batman versus Superman.
Okay,
another frenemy story. It's one of my favorite it harkens back to the Brother's Eye for any Batman DC geeks. Years ago, Batman created a satellite system called Brother's Eye to track all superheroes on Earth because, Batman more than anybody else is paranoid about superheroes and superheroes going rogue.
Yeah.
So, and it came out that, his friends found out that he's basically spying on them as much as he would a Lex Luthor or a Joker or anybody else. And it's one of those, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so if you're watching me this close, are you my friend or are you my enemy? And of course, Batman's greatest fear ever is that technology will fall into the wrong hands. And of course, this is technology he developed.
Yep.
That fell into the wrong hands, and then it's the bad guys can track.
Which, by the way, the idea of creating technology and then having it fall into the wrong hands, completely unrealistic.
Never
Am I right?
Never happens. No, nobody's ever developed a virus in a lab that has then been weaponized and used
against us. Yeah, no.
Against us. Never happened.
It never will.
Injustice. But there was about 15 plus years ago. Batman had a bad streak where he created the Brother's Eye thing. The thing got corrupted. They ended up turning into a movie called Doom, which is really, really, this fun. Basically, Batman has contingencies to take down everybody in the Justice League.
Yeah, wow.
Those plans got corrupted or got out. People used it against it.
WikiLeaks.
And it was, yes. Assad got a hold of his emails.
Yeah.
He hacked Alfred's emails. Email was the weakest link. And so, and the long story short is it's really funny. He goes to the Justice League and they're like, how would they know this is my weakness? How would they know this? It's like, well, that's my plan, and they were upset that it got out, but then they were upset. It's like, wait a minute, you have plans to take us down? And he's like, you are the most powerful people in the universe. Like, mind control, this, that. You ever go rogue? Yeah, I have a plan to take you down. And Flash goes, well, how would you feel if we had a plan to take you down? And Batman looks at him and goes, you don't? Then you're idiots. And then at the end of it, they were kind of, they solved the problem, they hugged it out, sort of. And they're like, well, I hope this doesn't happen again. Hope you learned your lesson. He's like, no, I have to create new plans now. He was really honest that he's like, no, this is who I am. This is who you are,
Yeah.
But so they incorporated the Brother's Eye thing, and it's great. I highly recommend it. And now that we talked the new games, it's time for me to grab a game off the show. Come up, while I grab the game, you come up with the name of this segment.
Joe's Sad Life. Okay. No whammies. Stop. And what did he grab? Okay, so by the way, he's grabbed one cartridge from my Nintendo Entertainment System collection of about 200 games, and I'm being kind there. It's actually probably closer to 280. From the bottom shelf, it's somewhere in the W's. I'm gonna say, God, it's not Wrecking Crew. It's right after Wrecking Crew. Is it like WWF WrestleMania?
Oh my goodness! It is WWF. That's before they got the F out of here and went to the WWE, because everybody knows what was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, the
World Wildlife Federation.
Yeah, Foundation.
Foundation had a copyright of WWF, and they had to go WWE. So this is vintage because it's a WWF.
That was just Big Panda, stretching its arms.
WWF WrestleMania Challenge.
Well, aren't you going to blow on the cartridge?
Oh.
Make sure it works.
I took care of it, brother. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at this cartridge and this cover, and I've never played this game. I don't play all the games I collect. Sometimes I just want to look at them. But WWF WrestleMania Challenge, I do remember playing one of the WWF games, and they're pretty much, I think they're kind of all the same. Although, so this is made by a company called LJN, and for you video game nerds and you angry video game nerd fans out there, you will know that LJN is the Rainbow of Doom when it comes to publishers of video games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. But I'm looking at the cover. Jeez, how many of these all these guys have died except for the guy in the middle?
Can you name the wrestlers?
Yes.
There's 5 wrestlers on the cover.
Okay. Center square is Hulk Hogan alive. Rest in peace, Big Boss Man. Rest in peace, Ultimate Warrior. Rest in peace, Andre the Giant. And rest in peace, Randy Macho Man Savage. Ooh, the cream of the crop. Ooh, yeah. That was my Randy Savage impersonation. Actually, that was Gilbert Gottfried's Randy Savage impersonation.
And for those at home, here's my Randy Savage impersonation.
He's laying down with his arms crossed because he's dead. Get it?
Sight gags on the podcast.
Oh boy, leaving a dump.
Yeah.
But these games were like notoriously cheesy. I think for the time, like if you were a wrestling fan and you were 10 years old and you had a Nintendo, this game was probably awesome. Because I think they had their signature moves, which I don't know, and I'm not a big wrestling fan, so why am I even reviewing this game? This is the flaw of this segment, is pulling a random game off the shelf because there's no guarantee that I'm going to know what the hell I'm talking about. Although I do want to, pour a 40 for my homies, Big Boss Man, Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant, and of course, Macho Man Savage.
How much do you think that goes for on eBay right now?
$10.00, probably.
$6.99
Yeah.
with free shipping. So you were not closest without going over.
Wow. Yeah, and this one has like black marker on it, and it says like Kevin, and it's the value has gone down a bit. But actually, if you look up on the top shelf, on the far right, I have WWF WrestleMania in the box. Ooh, yeah, brother. And now he's going to go grab it because I mentioned it. It's right there. There it is.
Oh, it is in the box.
Yeah, it's in the box. Well, I wasn't lying. That's the original WrestleMania. This is WrestleMania Challenge, the follow-up to that.
So you got
Seminal classic.
So look at the crossover. Look for first of all, who's on the front of the box?
Yeah, of course, Hulk Hogan is. I mean, he was the man. Like he had his own cartoon. He had his own comic book. I'm sure he had his own vitamin brand. I'm sure. Featuring Hulk Hogan and other WWF superstars. Randy Macho Man Savage, Andre the Giant, Honky Tonk Man, Ted, $1 Million Man DiBiase, and Bam Bam Bigelow. I don't know if I think Bam Bam's gone. I don't know I think Ted DiBiase, I think he might be dead too. Honky Tonk Man, I think maybe he died too. I think I'm looking at like 5 tombstones here. I don't know for sure, but and speaking of dead wrestlers, or wrestlers who are in bad shape. If you haven't seen The Wrestler from about 6 years ago, or something like that, great movie with Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. Tough movie to watch. Really, really tough movie to watch.
Great movie. And Marissa Tomei, who is Aunt May in the new Spider-Man Homecoming.
I'm sorry. Do you mean Academy Award winning? Marissa Tomei?
That. By the way, I watched that movie. Pretty good performance, and she was really good. Academy Award
good. No, I know that Bill Belichick liked her as he quoted her when he was explaining when it came to ball deflation. He was what she is to cars, he is not to. Do you remember that?
No.
You're looking at me like
I'm waiting for the punchline.
No, there is no punchline.
Oh,
what was her character's name in that?
Oh, I forget. And I saw it last month. So and I've seen it several times before. I can't remember.
The Two Utes.
Yeah. What exactly is a Ute?
Excuse me, 2 Utes.
That's my Joe Pesci. I do voices because I'm funny.
Yeah. Which brings us to Dollar Shave Club.
I need Dollar Shave Club because I haven't shaven in 3 days. Because I've been preparing for this lovely podcast in my bunker. No.
And when Joe doesn't shave in 3 days, with his Portuguese background, he could pass for a terrorist in absolutely any movie ever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's actually 4 movie. Below it.
Now, what does Dollar Shave Club have to say about deals for razors for your back? Are they special razors for back hair? I haven't seen that on the ad copy yet.
Right. They don't. You know what? They egregiously estimate the amount of pube usage. There's a lot of pube shaving. I mean, I guess maybe dollar pube shave wouldn't, you know,
It wouldn't fly.
you
I
know.
mean, we know what that is.
It's almost like, you know, Q-tips go in your ear, even though it says on the box, don't put Q-tips in your ear. You know, it's not going to say, you know, Dollar Shave Club, of course, knows that people...
Bag of glass. It says right on it. Hey, kid, careful.
Hey, kid,
bag of glass.
Bag of glass, be careful. You know, it's like, you know, like an invisible pedestrian here. It's like...
Johnny Flame on it.
Right.
It's just a bag of oily rags and a lighter.
Yeah, but Dollar Shave Club is a wonderful product, I'm sure. I wouldn't know, you know, because I haven't shaven in 3 days. I need Dollar Shave Club, but from what I understand, with Dollar Shave Club for just $1 a period, you can get the ultimate in shaving. You don't have to, you know, you can stick it to the man at Gillette. Although they have a great stadium.
They do have a great stadium.
Yeah. You don't have to be beholden to those barons of razors. You can get quality razors at a fraction of the cost with Dollar Shave Club. Just go to dollarshaveclub.com, insert the promo code Joe didn't shave in 3 days and he looks like a terrorist, and you will get some sort of a discount, and it actually comes out of my pocket, like they charge me.
And to be clear,
So don't put in the promo code, because I don't want to be charged for your friggin' discounts.
when we say Joe looks like a terrorist, just to be politically correct, we mean he looks like a middle-aged white Christian.
Exactly. Which, you know, if you've read the news lately, might as well be.
or ever. I'm trying to think how many you know, terrorist attacks by white Christians versus, let's say any other group has happened here in the U.S. in, let's say, the last, like, you know, since September 12th,
Right.
2001.
Yeah, exactly. I know. That was like the big one. That was
That was a big one. Hey, they hit it out of the park with that.
it's almost like they dropped the mic, they retired.
they got an early lead.
Yeah, right. I mean, they weren't exactly one-hit wonders, you know, but yeah, as far as homegrown terrorism goes, we have a lot of guys.
And we'll take this opportunity again to reiterate. Joe and I are new at this. We're trying to figure out how a podcast really works, what to really talk about.
Oh,
what
I
our
gotta
show
record.
wants- oh,
Shit.
What, you know, we did 3 podcasts before we realized there was no microphones, there was no recording devices. It was just us drinking together.
Right. Oh, that's what we need.
But again, like Joe and I, and I was trying to figure out the right way to say this the other day. It's like, as a child, picking Don Rickles as a role model in hindsight might be ill-advised. If somebody finds Family Guy offensive, they're not going to like Joe, and they're really going to hate me. So most of the things that we say could be, some would say are misogynistic, racist, anti-Semitic.
I'm going to say it.
I'm going to say it.
I'm going to say it. Listen, I'll be the first to say it. White people be crazy. And you can take that to the bank.
And the sperm bank.
Yeah, well, you're right. No, actually,
You heard about the gay guy who got fired for drinking on the job at the sperm bank? See, so
that kind of humor.
that kind of humor, some might, you know, call offensive. Some might call homophobic. I call it My Cousin Jimmy.
Which was a great movie, by the way. Academy Award winning.
And a real guy. So literally, we're going to say some very, very off-putting things, but that's only because if you got to know us, you would realize they're very off-putting.
Right.
That's exactly how they're meant.
We just don't want you to get too close. That's all. It's for your protection.
So, with that said, our next segment, we'll come up with this, is our podcast recommendation of the week, where we, on our podcast, spend time telling you about other podcasts you should be listening to.
People from around the world come to our podcast just to hear what we think of other podcasts.
So
we put the other podcast guys out of business. The other cup of podcast.
by the way, for those of you who haven't picked up it, Carnival Personnel is a reference from the greatest movie ever made, The Jerk. We are going to limit ourselves to, we say 5 Jerk references per week.
Right.
That was number 2.
Yep.
With that said, Joe, what is your podcast recommendation for this week?
Let's see. My podcast recommendation for this week, I would have to say, if I were a podcast listener, you know what? I'm going to have to cheat and go to my friggin' phone because I don't remember all. I've been listening to more podcasts now that I'm doing a podcast. I've been listening to how other people do podcasts, and God, I'm going to say, you know what, Larry Wilmore.
Larry Wilmore.
Yes, Larry Wilmore. You remember him from way back? I think it was last year when he had a show on Comedy Central. Well, Larry Wilmore from The Nightly Show, formerly The Nightly Show, has a new podcast called Black on the Air. Where he interviews guests each week, and he does like a rap. He's usually just talks about like how much he likes the Lakers. Like he's just a big Lakers fan, and he takes questions from people on Twitter. And but it's great because it's just more of a really smart, funny writer. Comedian who's been in the business a very long time.
Well, that's when Joe told me to listen to that podcast a week ago, and I checked it out, and it was funny. I forget who the guest was, but then Larry was talking about like his background, and the guest knew his background, and then I was reading it. I knew Larry Wilmore because Joe and I both loved, and we still do. The Daily Show is great, but I really loved Jon Stewart's Daily Show, and it was amazing what a launching pad it was. And Larry Wilmore was towards the end of Jon Stewart's run, a regular contributor and stuff like that.
He was the senior black correspondent.
The senior black correspondent, which was great. But then, I started reading about it and saw the number of shows that he's written, that he's created, and stuff like that. And he was much more than a correspondent, like a semi-regular correspondent on the Jon Stewart show.
Yeah.
So his show is really good. That's a great recommendation.
Yeah, I think he wrote. Did he write for Cosby?
I think he did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think if he did his later stuff.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know if he.
I don't think if he mixed the drinks for Cosby.
for Cosby.
Ew.
I don't think you picked that just so you can say, hey, look at what a liberal podcast I am recommending a black dude show. I think he actually likes his show, so good for you.
Yes.
Me, on the other hand, the David Duke Hour.
Ah, yes.
Which is a Southern my recommendation for podcast of the week, and I told Joe to check this out, the Nerd Chronic, Nerdcast. What I like about it is exactly what it sounds. It's a bunch of, really smart, well-spoken guys, unlike Joe and myself.
Yeah.
A very focused
Hey, you can speak. Speak for yourself. I'm pretty well spoken.
He is pretty well-spoken.
And spoken for, ladies.
Hello, and dudes.
Well,
you can paint 1,000 houses. But
Google the punchline.
So it's a show that talks superheroes, talk superhero movies, talk lots of comic talks. They've had some fun shows where they've gone over the dumbest superpower to have or the worst superheroes. Listening to it. Summer with Zan of San and Jaina and stuff like that. So that was a really fun one. They've broken down Star Wars fan theories and stuff like that, had their own theories, which ones that they like from fans, and they did it. Reviewed the movie Logan. So it is that they're all over the sci-fi superhero map. Really fun guys, really focused. Put a couple coherent thoughts in a row together, which is something I aspire to do. And, and if I haven't done it at this stage of the game, not in the podcast.
You're only 47. There's still time.
What's the rush? So Joe's podcast recommendation is
Larry Wilmore, Black on the Air,
and mine is the Nerd Chronic.
Yes.
So there you go. Now,
by the way, the lamest superpower. Does he touch on Scorpio? Or the Scorpion?
The Scorpion. Now, you know what? Seamstering.
Right. From see the last Saturday, or see the second to last Saturday Night Live with, was it the last one with Dwayne Johnson?
With future presidential candidate
Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock, as he's known.
And, I mean, speaking of wrestling, like, that's one guy who got out in the nick of time. Like, he didn't become a tombstone on a video game cartridge, or he's one of the good ones. He's one of the ones that have survived. Not that the other ones were bad. They probably were in wrestling at a time when wrestling wasn't as kind to its talent.
Well, it still isn't when you hear about, well, and again,
that's true.
like you said, like, It's funny when you mentioned the movie The Wrestler, and it was a few years back. Like I said, Joe and I, we're in Boston now. We spent, I spent 20 plus years in LA, working on different shows and stuff like that. And I was lucky enough to be around the 70s show a lot. And they had some episodes where they had a couple wrestlers come in who were professional wrestlers on like what you would call the AA level.
Yeah.
And that's when I found out that the WWE, then I think it was WWF then, it's very much like baseball where there's a system, there's a farm system that you work your way up through. And the life that these guys live, they might be wrestling seriously anywhere from 5 to 6 times a week. And in between that, they are, they have to lift almost every day. But they're driving themselves hundreds of miles to the second tier, third tier cities that, they're wrestling in front of 500 people today and 400 people tomorrow. And then literally getting off the mat, bandaging themselves up and then driving literally 10 hours to the next town.
Yeah.
And they travel in, pairs of 2 or 4 splitting hotel rooms. I mean, it's unbelievable. And there's absolutely no benefits to this. And it's all like living the dream. And it's much like, the NFL farm system is the NCAA. So they don't have the expenditures like hockey does. And basketball, there's the D League, but mostly their farm system is the NCAA too. But wrestling, these guys are barely eking out a living. And so it's football is trying to pretend it's doing something about concussions and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah. I wonder how many of these wrestlers, if they had donated their brains to science, how many
of them
would have CTE?
I mean, say what you want about, the scripted and all that stuff and the storylines and wrestling's fake. What is not fake is when a 250-pound guy jumps off the ropes 4 feet off the air and lands on you. No matter how much the mat absorbs, you're feeling it. Your head is bouncing off that. These guys break bones on an almost daily basis and play through it or wrestle through it. But it's true when you hear about the life expectancy or the life of these guys after.
Yeah.
And again,
it's great to see. Yeah, so you can kind of rag on some of the movie choices that Dwayne The Rock Johnson has chosen, Baywatch. But I mean, you got to hand it to the guy. He's a smart guy. He rose above the rest. He is essentially the cream of the crop. Him and Batista.
But he did, like you said, he got out at the right time.
Right.
And he'll still go back now and then. And when he, does appearances with them, he is literally the returning king and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he did. He got out, and kudos to him because he still can form sentences,
coherently. But yeah, he should do a podcast.
Maybe we'll look into it. He might have a podcast already.
Maybe he'll be on our podcast. No, he won't.
No. There's very little likelihood that he would be there.
I think we'll have A-Rock on the podcast.
Which brings us to our parenting tip of the week. So,
parenting tip of the week.
Between Joe and I, we have 4 semi-healthy sons. Much to the chagrin of society as a whole, we've been able to have children, and much to the surprise of...
And thank you for leaving out the 2 unhealthy sons that we talked about.
Well, as Brian Regan says, I have these 2 great kids and this other kid. But so far, DSS, hasn't taken the kids away yet.
It's because they know the snitches get stitches.
That and the fact that, we've moved around a lot the last few years. It's a little harder to track. And one of the great things about, having kids is the great parenting advice you get all the time. Some of the best parenting advice comes from people who haven't had kids.
Of course.
Those are the best. Or when your own parents tell you how screwed up you are and this is what you should do.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Right. Here's a mirror. You want to take a look.
So my parenting tip of the week, pressure points. Don't leave marks.
parenting tip of the week.
Well, what about you, Joe? You got a parenting tip of the week?
Don't leave your kids with Jacques.
There you go. I don't know which is more sound advice, but both of those are very bankable. Leave in a dump. Dead air.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
There's been 37 minutes of dead air.
Okay, we're gonna take a break and we'll be right back. All right, we're right back.
Wow, that was quite a break.
That
we
was
took.
quite a but that's
I've never run that much in my entire life.
that is one of my favorite things, on a podcast. You'll have I was listening to Bill Burr's podcast the other day. Another plug for another podcast when he's like, as he realizes he's saying he's taking a break and he'll be back in just a bit, but when he edits it, it will literally be seconds.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go upstairs here and take a shower, and then I'll be right back. So just hang tight. Hey, I'm back. So that was wow, what a shower I just took. I just took a shower.
Yeah. so Joe and I are trying to the first episode we realized every third word that one of the two of us say
Probably shouldn't be a 4-letter one.
probably shouldn't be a 4-letter one, and some of the worst of the 4-letter ones.
We'll ease into it. I mean, I said shit already, but
Yeah, but that's
they say that on Sesame
they
Street.
say that like literally. You hear that like I think if Dan Rather was still doing the news, he'd
Oh,
start.
God.
Can you believe this shit today?
Right. I think he does a show. Shit, Dan Rather says.
Which I think that will ease us into this week's episode of or segment of Political Talk. We'll come up with a catchy name for this segment. Probably not.
I think I'm going to call it Boo Hoo because I'm so sad.
All right, well, I think Joe sent me the meme the other day. It's like the leaked Comey note Comey note got leaked on his meeting with Trump, and it's just white line paper and it says, "This fucking guy."
Yeah, can you believe this fucking guy?
and literally, I don't think he could write 20 pages, and I think you could sum it up by.
Yeah.
Can you believe this fuck? So what we decided is like the first podcast, it's like once I got out the soapbox, I just went on more tangents. A number of times, Joe jumped in, but lots of times he tried to like talk me in off the ledge. And so we're going to try to limit it to one topic each for what happened this week or something that you want to talk about. And like we were saying, we were trying to debate like this week, Trump pushes another world leader out of the way to get first or to get in the front row of the pictures of all the world leaders. And, I want to go off on that because I've had a meeting with my son's, who's in the second grade teacher, and him and one other kid in the class constantly push each other to be first in line. And I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah. I know they're going to have. Is the president of the United States going to have the same meeting with your kid's second grade teacher?
Second grade teacher. But the sad thing isn't that happened. Is some people say, well, that just shows he's really willing to make America first. It's like, no, he's a narcissistic ass who's pushing another worldly. And I give anything for him to push Trudeau from Canada.
Yeah, right.
I think you want to talk WWE?
Yeah.
You want to smell what Trudeau was cooking?
Well, it's funny you say that because Trump actually did appear on a WrestleMania segment years ago.
Well, that's the thing. It's like people forget when, and I will try not to go on a tangent, but the movie Idiocracy,
Great.
It is great.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
Is it a great movie or is it an interesting documentary?
It depends on when you think it was made.
In about 10 years from now, when you see the movie, is it going to be a documentary? But the whole thing is, people forget he wasn't on WrestleMania once. He bought which franchise? Didn't he buy one of the franchises and sell it back? Wasn't it like Monday Night Raw that Trump owned for several years? He bought it from Ted Turner. And then ended up selling it back to McMahon.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like most of this stuff, I'm like, is he really meaning this stuff? Or is this all part of the image, the wrestling image? And like when he, anyways. So, but my rant of the week, I think I think has to be my rant of the week is there's too many rants of the week. that a couple weeks ago, Comey gets fired, and by Thursday, it was the fourth biggest story of that week. Comey gets fired on Monday. Tuesday, they have the Russian ambassador in that the FBI has said this was the guy who was the linchpin of the emails. On Wednesday, it comes out that the U.S. media wasn't allowed to that meeting, but that the Russian media was. And in that meeting, he tells them secret information
Provided to us by the Israelis.
And then Thursday morning, it was the whole, well, he shouldn't have done that, but he is president, so he has the right to do it. But the bigger picture is that intelligence came from Israel, and how much more intelligence are other nations going to be willing to share with us if he can't keep his big orange mouth shut?
Yeah.
Even if you think he has the right to do it, Israel didn't think he had the right to do it, and now
It's almost like what Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park. Yes, we might have the technology to do it. The question is whether we should.
Right, and here it is, our biggest intelligent partner in that part of the world now doesn't want to trust information with us. And then, it turns around, he calls the dictator of the Philippines and tells him that we have subs off the coast of Korea. But yet he didn't tell Korea. He didn't tell China. He didn't tell China. That's a huge country, China. Huge China.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell Japan. And those countries are like, so
Heads up?
give us a heads up on this. And then the tragedy in Manchester this week. The tragedy that we live in a world where Ariana Grande can sell out a concert hall.
Too soon.
But seriously, that the media here leaked out the name of the suicide bomber when they asked, it's like, hey, we're going to try to round up people associated with him before they skip town and they know that we're zeroing in. Let's not put this out there.
Right.
And
when the UK is criticizing our media,
right.
I mean, these are this is coming from a country where the daily, I think it's the Sun or the Mail, would publish addresses of people who are accused of crimes. Or,
right. And it's just that's the thing. It's like in Merkel, the German chancellor, comes out today and says, hey, Europe, we better get our shit together because some of our dependable partners aren't as dependable anymore. And I'm not really sure who she's talking about.
Right.
But
I mean, well, there's a plural there. There's a U.S.
Right. And I'm going to go with the Dominican.
Yes. Those darn Dominicans.
David Ortiz and his big international secret blabbing.
Yeah.
It's
all in his new book. Have you ever read that book? It's nothing but secrets.
Nothing but military secrets. And so, one of the things that Joe and I want to do, what do you want to call a segment? Future?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, Future had what was it? The next week's headline.
Next week's headline. This is where we're going to guess what next week's headline is. Now, the tricky part is, what is the biggest headline of next week? Because the biggest headline Monday might be completely buried by something more unthinkable by Tuesday.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to say next week's headline is that Gianforte, the guy that just won the Republican seat in just won the House seat from Montana, the guy who body slammed a reporter, broke his glasses.
Well, that guy was a little snowflake,
right?
And
he wasn't invited,
and it just shows strength. That guy's willing to literally fight for America.
Exactly.
Here's somebody from The Guardian.
Right.
A foreigner.
Right.
I'm surprised he even spoke English.
Yeah, he wasn't from Montana. He was a foreigner.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he comes here from another state. I'm going to say that he is appointed. I think I'm going to say he's appointed, chairman of...
Secretary of the SmackDown!
Secretary of the SmackDown. Thanks for saving that bit, because I didn't know where the fuck I was going with that. Yes, I'm going to say he's... Honestly, I don't have a clever headline, but I know something about Gianforte where he's gonna. Charges will be dropped. How about that? All charges dropped because he's due in court.
Right. But now that he's a congressman,
yeah, he says he's due to appear in court sometime between now and June 7th. I'm going to say charges dropped.
yeah. I mean, that's just. I mean, the sad thing is, it literally started last summer when Trump was antagonizing reporters and telling people when a couple of reporters like what was the guy's name, Lewandowski, who literally manhandled one of the reporters, and then gets fired, off the Trump team, and CNN hires him. It's like, wait a minute, it's like, what is this? But when Trump was saying, it's like, yeah, go ahead and rough him up, I'll pay your legal fees. He's standing at the podium mocking a reporter who has cerebral palsy.
I mean, have you read the tweets from this morning? We're taping this on a Sunday, and he tweeted like 4 anti-media, fake media, anything that says a source or from a source, and they don't name their sources, then it's fake news. They faked it up. Fakery fake. Hashtag fake.
And that's the great thing. It's like, how many of these things, like in the Michael Steele dossier, have been proven? You know, I mean, like the salacious stuff with the prostitutes in Russia, they haven't spent a lot of time substantiating that, but a lot of hey, he got money for these golf courses from here, and this is what, a lot of that stuff has been substantiated. So the congressman in Montana, the charges will be dropped, but the civil charges won't be. But the physically attacking the media, the absolute going out of your way to discredit legit media sources, to physically, it goes from one thing, from physically intimidating media to actually putting your hands on somebody and spiking them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's like what
in some states.
In some states, I'm trying to think. It's like, and what happens? I mean, if he does get something, is Trump going to turn around and pardon him?
No. Hey, he tweeted something about him this morning. Does anyone notice how the Montana congressional race was such a big deal to Dems and fake news until the Republicans won? V was poorly covered. I don't know what the V stands for. Victory.
Victory. Probably victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. My big news of the week, without a doubt. Well, first of all, you know how Putin and Trump became
great guy.
You know how Putin and Trump became very connected. They went to Jared.
Yeah,
they went to Jared.
I think you're like the 200 millionth person to take that.
Shut it. Shut it. Knock knock. Hopefully not you. But seriously, at this week, just way too much is piled up. I mean, the one thing that they have going for them is they've been out of the country when they got to Jerusalem right after they left the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it's a long weekend, so maybe.
Yeah. I was going to say, Jews love me.
Jews love me. If there's one thing I know about the Jews, they control the media and they love me.
Right.
Except the ones in the media, which they control.
Good Lord.
I was talking to the Illuminati, who are really Jews.
Right. Go figure. Spoiler.
So they, it's turned out. So this is Sunday, Memorial Day weekend. So literally by Tuesday, it will come out that yes, he tried to get the backdoor channel. Hello. To his Trump's boyfriend Putin. That yes, he lied during his security hearings and his clearance. And by Wednesday, it will be the 17th leading story on CNN.com.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
CNN3.com.
Right. Not even the Ocho.
Right.
In between dodgeball matches, we'll be talking about it because something bigger will blow over. But the big thing this week is that, some kind of thing will come out with Kirshner and him and Mike Flynn and Manafort. And does the list go on, or are we just going to move on?
And the list goes on.
And so now back to this week in USFL history. The Boston Breakers who lasted the entire 3 years in the USFL history. I think we're the only team that relocated twice. They went to New Orleans and then they went to Portland.
Wow.
Yeah, in the 3-year history.
Why
of
would
the
you leave
Breakers.
New Orleans to go to Portland?
Because I think they were having trouble getting a lease agreement that was reasonable for the I almost said the Saddle Dome, the
The Superdome.
the Superdome,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So they had to move to that football bastion that everybody knows, the heart of football, Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
So that's this week's, and that didn't happen this week.
Right. It's just, this week we're talking
But we're
about
talking about it. And like we said at the beginning of the show, Joe and I are comedy writers, and
Trust us.
big trust us. We're funnier than you think. We're funnier than we sound, and we're funnier than we are. And but big sports fans, and by big sports fans, Patriot fans.
Right. And by big sports fans, he means big sports fan.
He means me.
Yeah. I like to watch Tom Brady throw. That's about it. That's the extent of my fandom.
Yeah, but literally, does there need to be anything else?
No.
Like in a year and a half, we might have to find something else to obsess on. But right now,
Right.
when you're blessed with, living in the shadows of the greatness,
And what a shadow.
and what if everybody hasn't turned off already, and nobody would blame you. The greatest thing was, a couple weeks ago when the conversation on sports radio in Boston turned to Kraft talking about not knowing where they were going to hang the 5th Super Bowl banner, because there's 4 giant pillars
Right.
at Gillette.
Build a filth.
Where you're like, and when that's a conversation you're actually having, you're just dicks.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no undick way to have that conversation of the biggest problem we have.
Wham! My stadium's not big enough for all our banners. Wham!
Wah. It's like, what do we do? When the most sought after quarterback in this year's NFL draft is your backup that you hold on to because the 2 first-round draft picks you were offered wasn't enough for him.
Yeah.
And you're faced with where to hang the 5th banner. Yeah. There's good reason everybody hates. I say us,
Right.
because me wearing Pat gear 365 days a year and screaming at a television, whether I'm in Qatar, LA, or here, is a big part of them winning.
Yeah, I think people hate you for other reasons, but being a Pats fan just adds fuel to the fire. Yeah.
I can't think of one other reason somebody wouldn't like me.
Right.
We are close to the hour mark. We'll wrap this up. We again
Are
are
we playing a one-word game here? Like
Are-
we
finishing
the
segment
of
Carnival,
personnel
leaving dumb. But this is Jacques. Joe and I are comedy hacks trying to be funny on a podcast, trying to sound semi-intelligent. We hope to have a guest. We hope that our friend Jim becomes a regular correspondent. Jim's leanings are not as left as Joe's,
Right.
and a little left.
picture a game of tug of war. He's on the other side of the rope.
See, I'm a vegetarian who likes people.
He likes people.
Yeah, incarcerated.
Oh, gee.
Especially the ones with
Slam.
the permatent. Yeah. But
Yeah, hopefully he'll join us on a more regular basis because, yeah, hearing 2 liberals whine about Trump for 4 years is not exactly the most appealing thing. You need some balance, and unlike Fox, we want to be more fair and balanced.
we
than
do,
that.
and Jim also can talk Celtics and other sports.
Yes.
sports things where I can talk a little hockey, a
Right.
tiny bit baseball.
Can we talk NHL '94?
We can talk
for Sega Genesis,
which hopefully will be the game I pull off the shelf.
Well,
next
you
week.
got to move to the right. Right now, you're only on the Nintendo shelf. You have to move over to the Sega shelf.
I can't move to the right.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
Thank you for leaving in.
For leaving in.
I don't know what that means. I was going to say leaving a dump, but
Yeah, we got to end on that, man. It's like where we left our heart in San Francisco.
the most important thing is do not forget